Hey you guys, I'm here in the shop. I was working on 8 boxes that I'm trying to finish here by Friday. Friday I'm going to an art walk and I want these boxes to be done by then. And while I was working here, I just thought I should make a video on 10 tips for better boxes. Out of all the things that I built since I started woodworking, boxes is the one that I build the most. So here are my boxes that I'm working on right now. I'm sorry for this, but I hope you can see it. This is what I'm working on. And without any further ado, let's get right into the video and we'll start with number 1. Number 1 tip is to choose your lumber appropriately, get a long board and make sure you match the grain. It's very tempting to just go to your scrap bin and pick 4 scraps of wood and put some miters on it and glue it together and make a box. It's just not gonna look that professional. So what you're looking for one continuous board that when you put it together, you end up with the grain match. So you get this one continuous wrap around the box, and that's just going to look a lot more professional. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is pre-sand your inside of the box. And what I mean by that is pre-sand it when it's already in a long stick form, long board form, not after you cut it. And this is why. When the board is long like this, it's a lot easier to sand and you can sand it a lot more uniform. If you cut your board into pieces and you already put the miters on it, this one doesn't have miters on it, but imagine it has the miter 45-degree cut, and then you sand it, you have the chance or the potential to round over those miters as you go with the sander. So then when you glue together your box, you might get those gaps in there because you rounded as you are sanding and your miters are not going to look so great. So pre-sand at least the inside of your board when it's in long form like this, and then cut it with your miters. Tip number 3, pre-finish the inside of your box when it's in long form like this as well. So my favorite thing to put on my box on the inside is my carnauba wood finish and polish. This is a wax, it's tung oil and carnauba wax. And you would put it on into the part that goes in the inside of your box, put it on the whole board, and then you cut your miters. So wherever you cut your miters, it will have no finish on it because you apply before you cut your miters. So then the part with the miters have no finish, that means you'll get a good glue up. And because the finish is wax based, the glue doesn't stick to it. So clean up from the glue squeeze out, it's a breeze, it just kind of flakes off. So I really like that trick and it makes your life so much easier, you know, especially with smaller boxes. You can't really stick your hand in there, get in the corners and so on. But if you've pre-finished the inside, don't use a runny finish like, let's say, linseed oil, because you can put the linseed oil and it goes very deep, it's very watery. Well, you have to wait a long time to dry too, or this one, you can just go on and cut your miters within 5 minutes after you put the finish. So, but linseed oil is so runny that it will penetrate really deep into the wood, and then when you cut your miters, part of the miters has the finish on it and you will not get a good glue up. So put some wax on your board, then cut the miters, just the inside, so it makes easy cleanup. Tip number 4, invest into a good moisture meter. I have this one. It's a more expensive brand, but it's a very reliable brand. And I used to have, before this one, I used to have a cheaper one that was one of those with 2 prongs. And that one was very unreliable. On the same board, I will get about 5, percentage difference on moisture, where this one seems to be so much more accurate. Very, very important you check the moisture in your lumber. In the beginning, when I started woodworking, I did not do that. And because of that, I have boxes that I have made, and as you can see, they have warped. So now this lid doesn't stay flat because the moisture content on my lumber was too high and I didn't know to check for, moisture content. So now I have lots of this. I think I have like 5 of these boxes that are just warped like this. Also, it doesn't matter where you buy your lumber from. Always check for moisture content. I have purchased on eBay some beautiful olive wood lumber that I wanted to make into some charcuterie boards with epoxy, and it said clearly it was kiln dry lumber. So I didn't check it, I used it, I made a board, and guess what? It worked like crazy. I had a whole box of this lumber that I purchased, so I went to check the moisture content, and it was 32% moisture content. So just because on the website it said it is kiln dry, always check, because not everybody is honest. Also, that's from eBay, so maybe you will expect that. I purchased some some round cookies for making epoxy projects, and I purchased them from a very reliable wood source online, like a lumber place. And every cookie has different moisture content, even though they're all kiln dry. Some of them are 8%, some of them are 13%. So always check. Tip number 5. Always use a full curve blade when you cut your miters. Before I bought my Sawdust, I was working on a DeWalt job site table saw, and for that one it's recommended you use a thin curved blade because the motor is not very strong, and that way it goes easier through the wood. And it works great, except for miters. I was struggling with my miters. I would get the miters where it would be perfect miter on the top, perfect miter on the bottom, and then I'll get a gap on the middle. And that means I didn't know what was happening, and I kept trying and trying, and I didn't know what was wrong. And then I realized the thin curve heats up and it deflects. It's very thin, so then you end up with gaps in places that you shouldn't get gaps. So full curve when you cut your miters. Tip number 6. This is an old carpenter tip, and that is when you cut your miters, do not cut them at 45 degrees. Set your table saw a little bit past it, set it at 44.9, and that way you make sure all your miters close really, really nice on the outside. And if you ever have a tiny little bit of gap, that would happen on the inside of the box, not on the outside corners. So instead of using 45, use 44.9. Rule number 6. Use the golden rule when it comes to dimensions of your boxes. And this is a golden rule from furniture makers, and that relates to the height versus width. So if you have the width, let's say 5 inches, then the length should be 5 inches multiplied with 1.6. And that's going to give you a very pleasing to the eye dimensions. I made plenty of boxes in the past that were either too narrow, either too tall, either too short. So that's kind of a golden rule that gives it a really nice, pleasing to the eye look. Rule number 8. And I apologize for the background noise, but they're putting concrete on my new shop, so that's what's happening right outside my shop right now. Rule number 8 is start with the most intricate part of your project when it comes to your box. In my case, most of the time is the lid. So for the example, I made this when I made the video how to make pattern plywood. So this is the lid of a box. It does not have a box yet, but I always start with the lid because that's the most intricate part of my box. And this is why. It took a long time to make this intricate pattern, and out of all the pieces that I glued and stuff, this is what I was left with. Sometimes when you put things together like this one, or maybe this one, where you can see I took the rosewood and made this like cool pattern. When you make a pattern like this, it might look great. You might go for a size that you think you might want, and then when you try to cut it to the appropriate size that you need for your box, you might get a little bit of tear out, you might get a little chip or a little piece fly over and stuff, and then you are left with a piece that is unusable and it will not fit your box. And it's not so easy to just go and make this whole thing all over again. So by making the lid first, I cut it to size. This is my lid, all finished, already has finish on it. It's all done. So now I can make a box, and it's easier to adjust my miters and use the blue tape and check the fit and make the box to fit the lid, because the box will be, if I screw it up, it's a lot easier to make a new one than to make another lid that is intricate. For you, if your box is the most intricate, start with the box part. If the lid is the most intricate, start with the lid. Tip number 9. Your design pattern should be proportional in size to the size of your box. Here is an example when I went a little bit maybe too big. So this is an 8x5 box. This is what it looks like. And you can see the lid has this 3D cube pattern, but it's just a little bit too big for this box, I think. So it looks nice, but it could have been smaller and it would have looked better. In comparison, I have this one, the cubes, same design, but a lot smaller cubes, and that just looks so much more proportional to the box. So make sure your design it's proportional to the size of the box. And lastly, tip number 10, and this is mostly for people that do art shows and so on. If you're selling your stuff, don't be afraid to make some showstoppers. And this is what I will call my showstopper, and I will explain what I mean by that. My last art show I went to, I had 3 of these boxes with me, and I sold them all 3 in the first 30 minutes. I could have sold 10 of them if I had 10, but I only had 3 and sold them right away. I sold them for $175 each. This is what I call my flower box. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't really enjoy making these boxes. They are a lot of work, there's a very tedious work, and I think for me to make sense, I would have to charge like $250 at least for one of these boxes, but I feel like nobody will pay that, so I'm selling them for $175. So if it doesn't make sense financially, why do I make them? When I went to that art show last time, I had a table full of cutting boards, all kinds of boxes, different designs, different colors, and you could see people would walk by, you know, stream of people, and they would just graze over the table, and you can watch their eyes, and they're just looking, and when their eyes meet these flower boxes, they stop. They're like, oh wow, and they come and they look at it, they pick it up, they inspect it, and they either buy it, or at least they're picking up a business card, so then they can look up, you know, your website and whatever later on. So that's what I call the showstopper. This is what made people stop by my table. There are many vendors there, people are just walking by, sometimes they don't even pause. But when their eyes meet this box, they always stop, they ask questions, they chat, they look around, they might not buy anything, but at least they stop them on their way and gives them a chance to look at my stuff. Now, I hope this was helpful to you and you learned something new. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Skylar Ewing, and I'll see you in my next video.